in an article by Bob Unruh. And the headline was, "Will diversity," in quotes, "beat First Amendment in round 2? Diversity. You may have heard of this, the diversity movement in this country, folks. You got to be leery of words that sound good, that we're all for, but they're used in the wrong way. And here to talk about this story is Bob Unruh. Bob, good morning to you.
Good morning, and thank you for letting me join you.
Absolutely. You're in South Dakota or Iowa?
I'm in Colorado.
Colorado.
Those weren't the choices, Bob.
Yeah, I was
sorry.
giving you one or two choices to be in, Bob, and so we're gonna have to let you go.
Yeah.
Since you weren't in one of those two states.
Well, let me call back this afternoon.
Okay.
I'll drive.
Okay. Man, you're a dedicated reporter right there, my friend. Hey, Bob, tell us about this story that I saw in WorldNet Daily.
Well, it's an issue that's erupted at a university, and of course, that's not particularly surprising. University of Toledo. One of the executive team members was fired, and the reason that she was fired was that she expressed her opinion about homosexuality in a letter to the editor in a local newspaper. Now, she did not represent herself as being from the university. She signed her own name and expressed her own opinion, as some people would perceive that the First Amendment allows. The university hasn't had another opinion, and because her personal opinion on this particular social issue did not align with the diversity program at the university, she was removed from her job. That is something that I think Americans should find a little bit alarming.
She was relieved of her. How can that be? That seems like a lawsuit she could win all day.
Well, it's in the courts right now. The report was at the time when the appellate court arguments were being prepared, and that decision has not yet come down. It was heard in the arguments were heard in the 6th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. But what's alarming is that the district court judge had sided with the university. His opinion said that the university's diversity program was more important than the First Amendment.
That's actually what the judge said?
Yeah, that's the conclusion. That's not a verbatim quote, but that was the conclusion. That the First Amendment rights of this executive team member, I mean, she's not just a clerk or something like that. She's an executive team member. And the conclusion was that the university's diversity program had to take precedent over her First Amendment rights. And I don't know about everybody in the audience, but I would think most people would recognize that the Constitution probably should prevail in situations like this.
Bob, I got to tell you, I'm not a man who is up on and can't even always define what irony is, but I know it when I see it. Okay. And the irony of a university's diversity policy actually excluding diverse viewpoints. I mean, is this? Do these universities not see the irony, the self contradiction of saying we believe in diversity, but only if you agree with us?
Well, your point is well taken. Unfortunately, I've done literally dozens of stories over the past years on this same or related issues, and no, that is not the way that they do not see that irony. They do not see that perspective. A university diversity program is established by the university to pursue what the university wants and nothing else. That's generally the perspective that the universities take. You've seen it before. I'm sure you've seen it with the crackdown on Christian clubs being on
Right.
university campuses. I mean, I know you're familiar with the various cases of Vanderbilt and the one out in California and a bunch of those. It's all the same type of issue. The universities pick what agenda they want, and everything else is excluded. Everything else is not allowed. In this particular case, it is in court. She's seeking to either be restored to her job or to have damages or something like that because her First Amendment rights, I mean, the First Amendment allows us as Americans to express our opinion, even in a public way. And that's what she did. And then she loses her job. That seems to be a huge problem.
It isn't like she was advocating something, the overthrow of the government,
right,
or something. really wildly radical. She was just saying that she had a view of traditional marriage.
And she said that because she is black, Crystal Dixon is, and the letter to the editor to which she was responding said that the gay civil rights movement was the same as the black civil rights movement in the 50s and 60s. And so Ms. Dixon wrote and said, no, it's not the same. And she got fired for that, for simply expressing that point. She wasn't advocating harming homosexuals.
No.
She's just simply saying, I disagree with that perspective.
She was the human resources administrator at the University of Toledo. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So she's in administration. I mean, of course, if she had tenure as a professor, she could have said or done anything.
Right.
That's interesting. That's another irony here.
Right.
But they're not going to tolerate a different view from the political correct view at the University of Toledo.
And, Bob, what's also amazing about this is that one of the other administrative officials at the university, the vice provost, Carol Bresnahan, was also quoted in the Toledo Blade, the newspaper, several years ago saying, quote, bigotry is to blame for those who oppose domestic partner registry laws. It's their religious beliefs, and bigotry in the name of religion is still bigotry. So Ms. Bresnahan gets to call Christians bigots. Nothing happens to her, but Crystal Dixon simply says, I disagree with the perspective that these two civil rights movements are parallel, and only one of the two is fired.
That's correct. That's correct. And that's why I said it's the university determining what it wants to promote, and then everything else is excluded. That, it's not apparently from their perspective, it's not a speech rights. People don't have the right to express their opinion. They have the right only to express their opinion just when it aligns with the university program. And that should be terribly alarming for people.
Mm. Well, Bob Unruh has been our guest. He's a reporter for the WorldNet Daily, which is where I read this story. Where can people read about this?
WND.com will be following up on this case as soon as a decision from the Sixth Circuit is released.
When do you expect that?
And that can be anywhere from a couple of weeks to a couple of months. The circuit courts, even within themselves, are not always consistent in their opinions. I would expect it no later than probably end of January, maybe February, something like that.
Okay. Bob, I guess I'm trying to be as specific as I can for people who want to read this story. Do they just need to do a search for your name at WorldNet Daily or what?
WND.com, and when the opinion is released, we'll have a story, and I'll make sure that it gets in the headlines.
Okay. Bob Unruh, UNRUH, has been our guest with WorldNet Daily, and we've been talking about this unbelievable. We keep saying that. Pretty soon we're not going to be able to say that anymore. It's going to be very believable, but unbelievable. A black woman who works for the Toledo University has been fired. Her name again is
Crystal Dixon.
Crystal Dixon. Crystal, maybe we can see if we can get her on. She was fired because she wrote a letter to the editor saying that the gay and lesbian, transgender, and bisexual, quote, civil rights movement was not the same as a civil rights movement of black Americans. She herself a black woman. And because she wrote this letter to the editor, the university fired her from her job. And that's what we're talking about here. This is what's going on in our country in some places. Thank you, Bob, for your time. We appreciate your reporting on this issue.
Thank you for allowing me to join you.
Okay. Hey, Bob?
Yeah.
When you get to South Dakota or Iowa, call us back, and we'll have you back on again, okay?
Well, we're having some good snow here today, so it may take a little while.
Okay, brother.
Thank you.
Care. You know why I asked him that?